All right, don't think about it now. Try to calm down. Seeing that Slayer was distraught, Alex held his shoulders and tried to comfort him. Slowly, he started to relax. Let me ask you a question, Alex said. Who do you think really sees you as an equal? Henry or me? Slayer thought about it seriously for a moment and said softly, You. Good, Alex said, and then he was quiet. He felt that Slayer had made great progress by seeing the truth. Do you think that what Henry told you to do was right? He continued. No, but he's my employer and he saved me. I must do what he says, Slayer replied. Alex said resolutely, You know that I'm right. You've been completely brainwashed by him. I hope that you can see that now and that you'll stop helping him do these terrible things in the future. He looked at Slayer and asked him, Slayer, what's your real name? My name is Daniel Wiseman. Danny. Good name, Alex laughed. You're my friend now, Danny. Let's go out for a few beers sometime. Friends? Danny mumbled in a daze. He looked at Alex with a small smile, but he still couldn't believe what he had just said. He asked, You said, I'm your friend? Yes, we're friends, of course, Alex said with a smile. Danny lowered his head and wiped away his tears. Friend. How much he'd yearned to have a friend over the years. A man doesn't cry easily. If you cry again, I'll feel very awkward, Alex said with a smile. I wasn't crying, Danny replied. He finally had a friend, and he didn't want to make his new friend feel awkward. Danny, if Henry asks you to kill me again, will you do it? No, I won't kill my friends, and I won't let them be bullied either, he answered without hesitation. That's great, buddy. As Alex patted his shoulder, Danny's face broke into a broad smile. It was the first genuine smile of his life. I should go. If Henry can't find me, he'll get angry, he said to Alex. All right, but please remember what I said. Danny could see no pity, no discrimination, and no mockery in Alex's eyes. There was only friendship. He nodded and was about to leave when his gaze shot toward Monica. Monica, go hug Danny, Alex said to her. Vivian pushed her forward, but Monica tried to hide behind her. Alex smiled awkwardly at Danny. He could guess how crushed his friend would feel by the child's reaction, so he walked over to her. He squatted in front of her and said, Monica, Danny saved you. He's your friend, and it'll make him very sad if you're still scared of him. But he's a ghost, she said as she hugged Vivian, obviously still afraid of Danny's face. Alex sighed. Alex got into the car and drove to the police station with Vivian and Monica. They wanted to find out who was behind Monica's abduction and their motive. The officer in charge of their case led them to the interrogation room. Through the window, they saw that the two kidnappers were being questioned by the police. From the solemn expressions and furrowed brows of the two officers, Alex guessed that the interrogation was not going well. 2 hours later, the officers exited the interrogation room. Alex and Vivian had also finished giving their statements, so they approached the officers and asked them what they had learned from the two suspects. They seem to be seasoned criminals. They're not giving much away under interrogation, but don't worry, we have a lot of evidence. They'll definitely end up behind bars, they promised Alex. Thank you, officer, Alex said respectfully. Vivian nodded slightly to express her gratitude. Monica was still asking the two officers for banana bullets. Let's go, Alex suggested to Vivian. It didn't look like there were going to be any answers that day, and it was already dark. Just as they were leaving the police station, a distinguished-looking man in his 40s walked out from an office. All the police officers turned and looked at him with respect. Commissioner, one greeted him. Another said, Commissioner Hargreaves. Another simply greeted him, Boss? This middle-aged man was the police commissioner. He acknowledged his subordinates with a nod. His brows were deeply creased, and he was clearly worried. The commissioner addressed the two officers who had been interviewing the suspects and whispered a few words to them. Finally, he waved his hand and said, "Go." They walked reluctantly to the holding cell. When the commissioner saw Alex and the others, he walked over and said, "I'm so sorry about this. I want to convict these men, but it's been taken out of my hands. I'm under a lot of pressure from my seniors." Alex and Vivian didn't understand what the commissioner was apologizing about. Then they saw the two suspects smugly walking out from the detention cell. Vivian grabbed Alex's arm and asked in shock, "Commissioner, you're not releasing them?" The commissioner could only grimace and reiterate, "Sorry, it's out of my hands." One of the suspects walked up to Vivian and said brashly, "Hey, Miss Carter, we meet again." "You wanted to leave, now leave," the commissioner cursed angrily. He was struggling to hold on to his temper with these two. One of the suspects said, "Commissioner Hargreaves, you'd better treat us with a bit more respect. If Mr. Granger wants your badge, he only has to say the word to the chief." He was sure that Dale Granger was behind their release. The commissioner could only glare at them and try to suppress his anger. He knew that he couldn't afford to lose his temper with these two suspects. One of them scoffed arrogantly at the commissioner before shifting his gaze to Monica, who was hiding behind Vivian. With a sinister smile, he said, "Little girl, I didn't get to keep you this time, but watch out. I'll definitely be coming for you again." As he spoke, he moved to pinch Monica's cheeks. A figure stood in front of him. When he looked up, he saw Alex's face glaring at him with a stone-cold smile. Although Alex had beaten them before, now that they knew they had Dale Granger's support, they were no longer afraid of him. One of them pointed at Alex and spat out, "Get out of my way. Do you know who I work for? If you don't move right now, I guarantee you'll regret it." Alex replied calmly, "Really? No, I have no idea who you work for. Why don't you tell us?" The other suspect said to Alex, "I think you must have a death wish. Listen, we work for Mr. Dale Granger. Now are you afraid?" "I don't know anything about Dale Granger, but from where I'm standing, you're just a couple of who don't deserve any respect." Alex's eyes showed a trace of coldness. He asked himself, who is Dale Granger? What does he have to do with everything that's been going on? The suspect stood in front of Alex, shouting, "You want to hit me? Go on then." Bam! "Damn, you really do want to fight," the other suspect said in surprise. Before he could say anything else, the two suspects pointed at Alex and complained to Hargreaves. "Commissioner Hargreaves, he hit us right under your nose. Quick, arrest him." "Commissioner, you heard them yourself. They asked me to hit them," Alex said innocently. Then he thanked the police officers, said goodbye, and left with Vivian and Monica. Watching them go, the commissioner sighed. He had been under pressure to let the two suspects go. The reason for the order was that they were hoping that they would lead them to capture much bigger fish. Their real goal was to bring down the whole criminal gang that these two lowlives are part of. Alex took a cab home with Vivian and Monica. Vivian cooked dinner and then coaxed Monica to sleep. Alex was sitting on the sofa in the living room when Vivian came out of her daughter's bedroom. He called her over. "Why has someone been coming into your home and assaulting you?" Alex asked gravely. "What?" She looked flustered. "What are you talking about? Who's been coming into my home?" "Vivian, stop lying to me." When she heard that he already knew about her situation, Vivian sat down on the sofa dejectedly. "What's going on? Tell me. Maybe I can help you," Alex said gently. "You can't help me, but I will tell you what's going on," she said calmly. "I used to be in a relationship with this great guy. We were very happy. He was well respected by everyone, and he protected me. No one would dare bother me while he was around." She continued, "But then something happened, and he was forced to leave New York. Without his protection, I started to get harassed." "Who is this man? Why did he abandon you?" Alex asked. His first thought was that this must It's not that he abandoned me. He had no choice but to leave. She looked at Alex and continued. Do you know about the Azure Dragon Society? He was one of the society's leaders. 2 months ago, the society was completely demolished by a guy from one of the city's powerful families. No one from the society was allowed to stay in New York, so my partner had to leave. The Azure Dragon Society. Alex was stunned when he heard this. He and Ken Stokes had been responsible for the extermination of the Azure Dragon Society. He realized that the guy Vivian was talking about, who forced her boyfriend away, was him. He said stupidly, I heard that the Azure Dragon Society was one of the poisonous tumors of New York. Surely this young guy did a good thing? A good thing? Vivian's eyes were cold as she said angrily, He forced my man to leave and is therefore personally responsible for my situation. What's so good about that? Why do you think everyone from the Azure Dragon Society must be bad? My partner is a good and honest man. She continued, After the Azure Dragon Society was destroyed, all the gangs of New York, big and small, rose up again. When my man fled, there was no one to protect me. I'm just a woman. I can't do anything to stop them. Vivian's tears were falling to the ground like pearls from a broken necklace. Alex looked at Vivian, who was crying next to him, and murmured under his breath, Vivian, I'm so sorry. What are you apologizing for? She asked, looking at him with teary eyes. It's that young rich guy who should be sorry. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be in this situation. Hearing this, his heart ached even more. He had ruined the life of someone he liked. He composed himself and asked, Then who's that Dale Granger that they were talking about at the police station? Do you know him? You're only a student. Of course you wouldn't know. Vivian wiped away her tears and told Alex, After the Azure Dragon Society was destroyed, the various New York gangs battled for superiority. Now the pecking order is starting to become clear, and a gang called Flag Sect runs the city's underworld. Dale Granger is one of their leaders. Flag Sect, Alex muttered softly. He had already thought of a way to deal with them. Vivian continued, Flag Sect received a large portion of their resources from the Azure Dragon Society. Along with the resources they already had, they've grown much more powerful than the original Azure Dragon Society. Its leader, Quentin Robbins, appears to be a respectable member of society, and he speaks as eloquently as the mayor himself. I've heard that most of their money is laundered through one of the most famous department stores in New York. Alex listened and thought, and they're targeting Vivian simply because she's so beautiful? Vivian, you won't be harassed by these again, he said to her seriously. He felt that he owed her. Okay, she replied softly. She was touched, but didn't take his words to heart. He was only a student, and she was up against the Flag Sect. How could Alex protect her or himself? Bang, bang, bang. At this moment, someone thudded on the door. Open the door, Vivian, right now. It's him. Her expression turned into one of terror. Alex frowned and asked, Dale Granger? Yes, now quickly hide. If he sees you. I'm not afraid. I promised Monica that I wouldn't let you two get bullied again by this. He looked determined. Thank you. I'm very touched by your kindness. But now is not the time to be a hero, she said calmly. Then she pushed him into the bedroom. Don't come out under any circumstances, or I won't be able to save you. Vivian, Alex wanted to say more, but she had already closed the door. Granger was still banging on the front door. He was shouting, Open the door. If you don't open the door, I'll kick it down. I'm coming. Vivian tried to steel herself before opening the door. A tall, middle-aged man walked in. He had a bald head and wore a black suit. His exposed wrists showed that his arms must be covered in tattoos. He was Flag Sect's underboss, Dale Granger. Mr. Granger, why are you here? Vivian greeted him. Although she was smiling, her smile was fake. Granger stared at her and sneered. Why am I here? That's a good question. What do you think I want? Slowly, he approached Vivian. Sit down, I'll get you a glass of water, Vivian offered, trying to appease him. She was terrified of this man. A glass of water, he said. I can understand why you rejected me when Flag Sect was still a second-rate gang. But now we run New York, and you're still hiding from me. Tell me why. You know I can protect you and keep you safe. Mr. Granger, I just want to live a peaceful life. Please leave me alone. Leave you alone? His eyes were cold and hard as he said, That's fine, I'm not asking for much. Suddenly, something heavy struck his head. Ouch, he said, rubbing his head. He stood up and saw a young teenage girl standing in front of him. She was wearing pajamas and had a golf club in her hand. She was very scared, and when she saw all his tattoos, she started shaking. Monica, are you okay? Vivian's heart ached as she rushed over to help her up. Tears were flowing down her face. She was so proud that Monica had dared to challenge a ferocious like Dale Granger to protect her. I'm fine, Mom. I'm not hurt, Monica replied. But I'm no use. I can't beat this horrible man. Monica, hurry up and go to the bedroom. Vivian pushed her away. She thought, I need to make sure that he only has his way with me. I'm not leaving. I want to protect you. Monica didn't understand what Granger was planning. She had only one goal, and that was not to let her mom be harmed. She glared at him and said, Don't come any closer. Neither of you are going anywhere. At that moment, the bedroom door slammed open. Granger was startled and quickly looked in the direction of the bedroom. Vivian, get up, Alex ordered, and he started pulling Vivian and Monica toward the door so that they could all escape. But before he could open the door, Alex heard, Hold it right there. Go, hurry up and get out of here. He could only hope that Vivian could get out in time. Alex, sobbed Vivian. Alex, cried Monica. They didn't want to leave their hero. But Vivian knew that they wouldn't be any help if they stayed, and Alex wouldn't want his desperate attempt to save them to be in vain. Monica, let's go, she said. She pulled her daughter to the door and they rushed out. He ran toward the nearest door. Alex slammed the door behind him and then leaned his back against it to prevent Granger from getting out. He breathed a sigh of relief. Alex suddenly realized that he was in the kitchen, and standing in front of him was a petite old lady. She was 5 feet tall, and her white hair was pulled back in a bun. She was holding a piece of bread and looking curiously at Alex. She looked a little weak, but there was a certain dignity to her face as she stared at him with hawk-like eyes. Alex was shocked to suddenly find this strange elderly lady in Vivian's flat. What a handsome young lad, the woman said with a strange smile. Her voice sounded very old and frail. Suddenly, the old woman threw away the bread. Her feet shuffled slightly, and in the blink of an eye, she was standing in front of Alex. Alex was shocked by the weird scene, but he managed to move out of the way. Open the door, you... shouted Granger as he broke the door open. Vivian's mother is here, too. He looked at the old woman and said, Old woman, you better leave right now if you don't want to get hurt. How dare you? Hearing that he was being disrespectful to her, the old woman flew into a rage. The exertion caused the woman to cough violently. The old woman was helpless against Granger. Her face turned red, and all she could do was wink at Alex. The old woman picked up a kitchen knife from the chopping board. Granger fell to the ground. The kitchen knife fell with him. Ah! Cried Granger. His eyes were wide open as he stared at the old woman in horror. Alex was also stunned. He saw a cold light flash past his eyes. He didn't dare to move, afraid that the old woman would him if he turned his back. Ew, the old woman said as she looked at Alex. Well, I'm standing up and she's still on the ground. I've got to use my advantage to hurt her if I can. It's my only chance to escape. But before he could get to the door, his legs went limp and he sat on the ground. Suddenly, he heard a clank. The old woman was standing over him. She said, "Seeing that you saved my life just now, I'll let you live. Now we're even." There was mockery in her eyes. Alex could hardly believe what he was hearing. Her voice had changed. She no longer had the frail voice of an elderly woman, but the strong, strident voice of someone decades younger. Her eyes had also become focused and sparkling. The woman went to the open window. Did she come in through the window? Alex wondered as he noticed that the glass was broken. What is she going to do now? Is she really going to jump out of the window? But we're on the 9th floor. Unbelievably, it did look like she was intent on jumping out of the window. So Alex shouted, "Stop!" But the old woman was gone. Alex ran to the window and looked out. He was dumbfounded. The woman hadn't fallen to the ground as he had feared. Instead, she seemed to be floating down like an action movie superhero. She landed on the main steps of Vivian's building, took a few steps, and then disappeared. Alex continued looking down in a daze. He just couldn't comprehend what he had just seen or believe that it was real. When he came back to his senses, he looked at Granger lying on the floor. He walked around and out of the kitchen. Alex! Vivian had walked back into the apartment. When she saw him, she walked up to him quickly to check if he was injured. What about Granger? Vivian asked anxiously. Alex said as he looked toward the kitchen. Surprised, Vivian walked slowly to the kitchen door. When she opened it, she saw Granger lying on the floor. What happened? She asked, trying to suppress her disgust. Then she thought, Dale Granger was one of the leaders of the Flag sect. When they find out what's happened, they'll kill us all. She said, we have to get away quickly before the Flag sect people come looking for us. She held Alex's hand and tried to pull him to the door. Alex pulled her back and replied, Vivian, don't worry. His was nothing to do with you. Trust me. I'll take care of it. In an anguished voice, she said, Oh, why don't you understand? He's one of the main guys from the Flag sect. When they find out, they will kill us. Don't you understand? Vivian couldn't believe that Alex was being so naive. She thought he was an ignorant college student who knew nothing about society. Alex held Vivian's shoulder and said calmly, Listen to me. I know you don't believe me, but please trust that every word I'm saying right now is true. Even if they think I Dale Granger, Flag sect won't dare to come after me. Seeing how sure Alex was, Vivian didn't know what to say. All right, now you and Monica stay at the hotel and I'll handle everything here, he said. And then he put his arm around Vivian's shoulder and they walked out of the apartment. In the entrance lobby, they found Monica waiting anxiously. Alex found them a room at a hotel nearby and settled the mother and daughter in there. When he left the hotel, Alex called a cab and went back to the Azalea guest house. When he arrived, he asked for Sam Woodsworth to come and see him. Alex, you... Sam stopped when he saw the state Alex was in. It's nothing, Alex reassured him. His appearance was the least of his concerns at that moment. The needed to be dealt with before the police got involved. If that happened, the media attention would be impossible to suppress. He said quietly, In number 2 Bayview Villas, apartment number 903, there's a dead body in the kitchen. The is Dale Granger, one of the leaders of the Flag sect. Send someone to deal with it immediately. Yes, sir. Sam was frightened when he heard what he had said. He wasn't scared of the Flag sect, but of the impact that this could have on Alex. He was terrified to think of the danger that Alex was now in. He quickly instructed one of his subordinates to dispose of and then went back to Alex and sat down next to him. He said, "I'm so sorry, Alex. I was supposed to protect you. Can you forgive me?" "Forget it, it's fine," Alex reassured him. No one could have predicted what had happened tonight. Finally, Sam stood up, and Alex asked him, "Is handling it going to be a problem?" Sam replied confidently, "The Flag sect has only just been formed. It was only because we managed to eradicate the Azure Dragon Society that the Flag sect rose to prominence. In comparison, annihilating these amateurs will be easy." Sam didn't seem concerned at all. "Since they've caused these problems, how about we completely eradicate them?" Sam suggested. "Not for now. Let's just wait until this matter is settled first," Alex said after thinking for a while. An hour later, Sam went to see Alex with the news. "The situation has been dealt with, and our people have also eliminated any surveillance on you. According to our intelligence department, Dale Granger has no relatives, so no one will report him missing to the police, and the only people who will notice his absence are the people from the Flag sect. If we hear any more news about this, we'll deal with it immediately." "Thank you. You've done well. Go and get some sleep now. I'm tired too." Finally, Alex could relax. Exhausted, he went back to his room to sleep. Over the next 2 days, Alex didn't hear any more about Granger's. It seemed to have never happened. Vivian and Monica had been staying in the hotel, while Alex had been scrutinizing the movements of the Flag sect. According to Sam's observers, the gang had started sending people to search for Granger. On the third day, Alex left the Azalea guest house and got on a cab to go to the hotel to see Vivian and Monica. By the time he arrived, Alex felt a little hungry and decided to go and get some breakfast first. A small restaurant called the Bayview Diner attracted his attention. The quaint exterior and the fluttering banner outside made him feel like the diner had been around since the 50s. Business in the diner seemed to be pretty good. It was almost full. He ordered a bowl of beef soup and took a seat at a booth in the corner. Alex looked up and saw a petite girl walk in and head toward an empty table. He couldn't see her face from where he was sitting, but her red clothes were familiar. When she turned and sat down and Alex had a clear view of her face, he couldn't help but choke. The beautiful young lady was only around 16 years old, and she had exquisite dark eyes under long curved eyelashes. Her cheeks were pink, and she had her silky hair tied back in a bun. Alex couldn't believe what he saw. This woman was wearing the same clothes as the old lady who had Dale Granger at Vivian's home 3 days ago. He knew it was the same woman. He lowered his head to drink the soup. He was very nervous, but he was also confused. What if she wanted to silence him? Also, how had she turned from a very elderly lady into a beautiful adolescent? Then the girl noticed Alex sitting in the corner booth, and a trace of a smile appeared on her face. Alex froze, but she only glanced at him once before looking away. She called out to the waiter, "Why hasn't my beef soup arrived yet?" Her voice no longer sounded like that of an old woman, but was the voice of a teenage girl. It was also very calm and very cold. "Hey, beautiful, here's your beef soup," said the owner of the diner, as he brought a steaming bowl of soup over to the girl. Alex was surprised as he thought, the girl didn't even give her order. How did the waiter know what she wanted to eat? The owner smiled as he put the bowl down in front of her, and then he turned to go back to his work. The girl picked up a spoon and took a sip of her broth. Her eyebrows knitted together, and she emitted a loud yuck and pushed the bowl of soup off the table. "What kind of soup is this? It's terrible. Get me another bowl," she ordered aggressively. "Why did you have to do that?" the owner said when he saw the mess of beef soup and the broken pieces of the bowl all over the floor. "You need to control your temper. You can't come into my diner, tell everyone that my soup is bad, and then smash my bowl. You'll ruin my business." The teenager raised her gaze to look at the man as she said, "Are you talking to me?" The coldness of her gaze made him shudder. Alex, who was sitting nearby, watched the scene and felt his heart tighten. He had already witnessed this girl's terrifying strength. At that moment, a young man stood up and walked over to the owner of the diner, saying, "Why are you talking to a customer like that? If she says your food is bad, then it's bad." He looked at the girl with a smile and asked, "Beautiful lady, their beef soup is bad. I advise you not to have another one." Seeing that the young man was trying to please her, the girl smiled playfully. "Then get me a Caesar salad." "Did you hear that? Caesar salad, quickly." When the salad was served, the young woman ate slowly, one forkful at a time. Everyone in the restaurant glanced at her. As she was eating, her every movement was pleasing to the eye. The teenager leisurely finished her salad, stood up and was about to leave when the owner stepped in front of her. "You haven't paid for your food yet. A bowl of beef soup and a Caesar salad. That's $18, he said. "Having me eating in your diner should be payment enough, yet you still dare to ask me for money? Just get out of my way," she replied with a scowl. She was about to push him aside and leave. But the man wouldn't give in. He remained standing in front of her and said, "Hey girl, where are your manners? What makes you so special that you don't have to pay for what you've eaten?" One of the other customers piped up, "Yeah, why aren't you paying for your meal? Which high school are you from? Didn't your teachers teach you any manners?" Another said, "She's so beautiful, but she doesn't have the slightest bit of class." The other customers in the diner also supported the owner. Although they found the woman attractive, they were still thinking rationally and felt that she should pay her bill. The girl's eyes swept across the crowd as she asked them, "And who exactly is going to make me do it?" There wasn't a shred of cowardice or panic in her voice. She seemed calm and determined. "Let me help her pay," he said without any hesitation, as he squeezed through the crowd and rushed in front of her. "It's only $18. I'll pay her bill and mine as well," he said to the diner owner with a smile. He transferred the money to him using his cell phone. "Is that settled now? Great, then we'll go," he said as he looked at the girl. She was observing him playfully. He smiled awkwardly and said, "Ma'am, I've paid the bill. Let's go." Alex had seen her as an old woman, so without thinking he called her ma'am. With a humph sound, the girl walked out with him. One of the customers muttered behind her as she left, "I can't believe that girl was so obnoxious. I blame her upbringing." With a puck sound, something hit his chest. With the other customers watching in fascination, the man pulled the thing from his chest and saw that it was a bead. "It's hers," he said, remembering that the woman was wearing a string of beads around her wrist and that this bead matched the others on her bracelet. Everyone in the diner was astounded, and as they watched the girl leaving with Alex, they couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. "Well, that was generous of you," the girl said to Alex chirpily. "Yes," he agreed, worried that she was still planning some sort of revenge on him. The more he looked at the adolescent walking beside him, who now resembled a high school student, the more astonished he became. How could she have turned from an old woman into a young one? Standing next to her, he felt deeply uncomfortable. "They'll all," she said casually. That sentence from the mouth of a schoolgirl should have been funny, but Alex inhaled sharply. "Ma'am, how did you become like this?" Alex asked cautiously. Seeing that she was looking at him with curiosity, his heart tightened. He said quickly, "It's fine if you don't want to tell me." There's no need to be so afraid of me. Perhaps I'll ask for your help at some point. It's very simple. I've become young again because when you first saw me, I'd been injured." "Do you practice martial cultivation?" Alex asked in surprise. As a well-educated descendant of a good family, he had heard of this mystical art of obtaining immortality, but he had never met someone who practiced it. "Martial cultivation? The girl smiled mysteriously as she listened to him. She didn't deny it, and he didn't dare to ask any more. "What did you say you needed my help for?" he asked, puzzled. He couldn't think of how he could be any help to her. "You're clearly from a powerful family." Alex felt increasingly confused. The girl stared at Alex and said, "I want you to let me stay at your place for a while. Don't let anyone disturb me, and you need to bring me live chicken every day." Alex was stunned. The woman was a dangerous person, and he didn't want her to stay in his home. She was unperturbed by his hesitation. She guessed, "You're afraid they'll... It's true that I've countless people over the last few decades, but I'll make you a promise. As long as you do as I say, I promise I won't hurt you." "Okay, ma'am, I'll do as you say," he replied. He didn't see how he could object. "Smart boy, Alex. Now take me to your house," she said with a smile. "So, you know that my name is Alex. What should I call you?" Alex asked. "Okay, since you want to call me something, you can call me Grandma," she answered calmly. Alex couldn't help but be embarrassed. It seemed that he had landed a teenage grandmother. Undoubtedly, this young woman was the elderly lady he had seen before. He had no choice but to find a cab and take Grandma back to his villa in Green Island Garden. On the way, they stopped to buy a live chicken as she had demanded. Once he had dropped her off, he wanted to go to the hotel to check on Vivian and Monica, but as he was leaving the villa, Carl Cooper called him. "Where have you been?" he asked. "I haven't seen you in the dorm for a few days. Listen, Ben's sister's coming for a visit. Why don't you come over and meet her?" "Ben's sister's coming?" Alex was pleasantly surprised. They all knew that Ben had a sister who is currently in high school, and that he was living frugally in university to save money for her to continue her studies. Every time he called home, he would only tell his family the good news and say not to worry about him. When his roommates heard this and saw him living on instant noodles, they were touched and sad. Ben's sister was coming. Alex wanted to go and support his friend, so she could see how popular her brother was. He arrived at the dormitory and greeted his friends. As usual, Joe, who spent a lot of time working out in the gym, teased him a little. Ben, who didn't usually pay much attention to his appearance, had been to the barber's. He looked very handsome, wearing a white short-sleeved shirt, a pair of beige shorts, and white sneakers. He looked very much smarter than usual. He also looked a little uncomfortable. Carl put his arm around Ben's shoulder and said, "Alex, did you know this kid is hiding something from us? In the last 2 days, we've caught him buying expensive clothes and paying attention to his appearance. He also lies in bed every day playing with his cell phone. Joe and I have hardly seen him." He continued, "Today he got up and showered before dawn and dressed in smart clothes. Joe and I wanted to know what he was up to, so we asked him. He finally told us. He told us that his sister is coming to New York to take part in a competition, and while she's here, she's coming to visit him. We've seen his sister's picture, and she's really pretty. Apparently, he's getting himself all dressed up like a movie star just to go and meet his sister." Carl slapped the back of Ben's head. "Okay, Ben, don't tell us, but then we won't be able to help you," Alex said as he sat down next to him. He tugged at his friend's clothes and said, "A shirt, Tommy Hilfiger shorts, and shoes. How much did you spend on all this?" Alex let go of his clothes and Ben straightened out the creases. It was the first time he had worn such expensive items, and he felt so good. He didn't want the clothes to be ruined. He looked at his friends with an embarrassed smile. The shirt was $200, the shorts $250, and the shoes $300. Ben saw Alex and Carl looking at him in surprise and immediately explained, "It's not my own money. Of course I don't have that kind of money. They're all on credit." "Buddy, it's great that you want to look good, but how are you going to pay it off? You still need money to live on. And it's not like you're going on a date, you're just meeting your little sister," Alex said. He thought Ben was crazy for buying all those expensive clothes on credit. "You guys don't understand. Do you think I want to get into debt to buy clothes? Can't you see that I had no choice?" Ben said awkwardly. "I keep telling my family that I'm doing really well, that I earn more than $2,000 every month doing part-time work, and that I have plenty of money so they don't have to worry about me. Now my sister's coming, and if she sees me dressed in rags, she'll be really disappointed, and she'll go back and tell my parents. It'll them to hear the truth." Ben's friends all understood his concerns. Alex said, "It's fine, we were just joking with you. But you'll have to keep up the pretense while she's here. If they'll think you're wealthy, if your sister finds out the truth, it'll be even worse. I still have a little money on me, around $350. I borrowed it from some friends. That should be enough. If it's not, I can still get a little more on my credit card," Ben said without any confidence. Alex sighed inwardly, but he didn't say anything. He was sure that Ben was making a mistake. After chatting for a while, they left to pick up his sister from the airport. While Ben and his friend were leaving the campus, two young ladies were walking out of arrivals at JFK Airport. One of them was Ben's younger sister, Tanya. The other was her best friend, Brittany Coleman. "Listen to me, is your brother in New York really as amazing as you said he is?" Brittany asked as she held Tanya's arm. "Of course. Every time he calls me, he says that he's studying hard at Preston University, and he gets a scholarship every semester. In his spare time, he does part-time work for only 2 to 3 hours a day, and he gets paid more than $2,000 a month. And he's one of the most influential students at the university," Tanya said proudly. I agree that your brother sounds awesome." Brittany smiled and leaned in closer to her. She whispered, "Does he have a girlfriend yet?" She knew what Brittany was thinking. She touched her friend's cheek with her finger and giggled. "You're so embarrassing. What are you thinking?" Brittany's face turned as red as a tomato. "Why isn't your brother here yet?" Brittany asked. After waiting in front of arrivals for more than 20 minutes, she was starting to get anxious. Tanya looked at her and said, "Don't worry, my brother just sent me a message saying that he's rushing here right now. He'll be here any minute." Just then, two men wearing floral t-shirts walked over to the girls and smiled. One said to Tanya, "Hey, gorgeous, you waiting for me?" He had dyed blonde hair, and his friend had a dragon tattooed on his arm. "Britt, let's go," Tanya said in a low voice before pulling away from the men. They looked very dangerous to her. "Don't go," one of them said. The two men quickly blocked Tanya's path. They lowered their heads to look at the two girls, and one said, "Is this the first time you've been to New York? Come with us, we'll show you around." He had a sinister glint in his eyes. As they spoke, they both reached out to grab the girls' hands. "No, what are you doing?" Tanya squealed. She and Brittany were afraid. They pulled their hands away and tried to step backwards. "Don't! Help!" the girls shouted in panic. "Let go! Get off us!" At that moment, Ben, Alex, and Carl arrived. When they saw what was happening, they were furious. They didn't care who the two men were, but instantly rushed forward to help the girls. "Are you okay?" Ben asked Tanya. Seeing her nod, he looked at the two men and said, "Alex, Carl, come on, let's teach these guys a lesson." The two men saw the students charging at them ferociously. They didn't know who these guys were, and they were afraid of getting beaten up again, so they ran away. Ben walked to Tanya's side and said guiltily, "I'm so sorry. Did they scare you? It's all my fault. It wouldn't have happened if we'd been on time." She took his hand and said, "Ben, it's fine. We don't blame you at all. You were so awesome just now that you scared those men away." Noticing that Ben's clothes were all famous brands, Tanya's heart was filled with pride. She looked at Alex and Carl and asked, "Who are your friends?" Alex and Carl walked over, trying to look cool. They felt like heroes in a movie, saving the beautiful heroines. Tanya and Brittany were very impressed with them. "Oh, they're my roommates. This is Alex, and this is Carl." Ben introduced his friends to Tanya. She smiled sweetly and said, "Alex, Carl, it's good to meet you. Thank you for saving us just now. You were all so awesome." Then she introduced Brittany to Alex and Carl. Brittany sized Ben up and smiled. "Ben, Tanya's told me how well you're doing at university. Looking at the designer clothes you're wearing, I'm guessing you also earned plenty of money. Tanya and I rarely come to New York, so you must take us everywhere while we're here." Ben scratched his head in embarrassment and answered, "Really? Well, I guess I'm doing better than most students here. You looked awkward. Alex and Carl smiled secretly. You're too modest. Where are you taking us first? Brittany asked with a smile. She was looking forward to spending time with him in New York. He was rich, so she was sure he was going to pay for everything for her. Oh, I'll take you guys to see Times Square and the Empire State Building. They're two of the things you must see in New York City, Ben said. Okay, bro, let's go, Tanya said as she took his arm and went to the roadside to call a cab. They quickly found two cabs, one for Ben, Tanya, and Brittany, and another for Alex and Carl. Ben, what kind of part-time job are you doing that you earn so much money? Tanya asked as she looked at her brother. She felt warm and happy. Brittany looked at him in anticipation. She said, Yeah, to only work for 3 hours a day and earn $2,000 a month, that's $50 an hour. That's amazing. Ben looked embarrassed as he wiped the sweat off his forehead. Thinking quickly, he said, I'm a landscape architect, and I teach people to paint. New York is a big city, and rich people don't care about spending money. $50 an hour isn't much to them. So that's what you're doing. Ben, you're amazing, Tanya laughed. The more Brittany looked at Ben, the more she liked him and wanted to be close to him. She told him, I also want to study landscape architecture. By the time I graduate, you'll be high up in a big company. Then you'll be able to help me with my career. We'll talk about that when the time comes. He knew that if Tanya and Brittany found out that he was lying, they would be disappointed in him. He knew that he would die of embarrassment if that happened. Ben and his friends took Tanya and Brittany to Times Square and the Empire State Building. They treated them to snacks in New York coffee shops and bought them souvenirs from the gift shops. In just a few short hours, Ben had already spent $100. He had a little over $200 left. He wanted to treat Tanya and Brittany to a nice dinner and fancy hotel room, but he had no idea how he could pay for it. Brittany pursed her lips and said to him, Let's go. We've been walking for so long. I'm hungry. Ben, are you going to take us somewhere nice for dinner? Let's go. Oh. Ben wasn't sure what to do. He was thinking, we could just take them for a stroll around campus and then for a meal at Beautiful Cuisine, the campus restaurant. However, when Brittany asked him with such anticipation, he couldn't say anything. He felt that taking them to Beautiful Cuisine would seem so disrespectful. Ben, what's wrong? Can't you decide which restaurant to take us to tonight? It's okay, take your time to decide on the best one. After all, you've been in New York for 2 years. You must know loads of great places, said Brittany. She continued, Tanya and I are country bumpkins. When we get to the restaurant, we'll take photos and post them on Instagram. You mustn't laugh at us. Don't worry, Britt, my brother won't laugh. When we get there, I'm going to take photos of all the dishes we order and of the inside of the fancy restaurant. Our friends are going to be so jealous of me having such an awesome brother. So far, Ben had been very generous. The girls had already spent a lot of his money since they had been in New York. Looking at their excited faces, Ben kept smiling, but inside he was panicking. He had no idea what to do next. Then Carl stepped in to try to help him. He said, Ben wants to invite you to have a meal at the seafood bar. The seafood bar was a small eatery near the campus, and it was very popular with the students. Although it wasn't as busy as Beautiful Cuisine or Coffee Palace, it usually had a good atmosphere. More importantly, considering the amount of money Ben had left, it was affordable. The seafood bar, what's that? Brittany took out her cell phone and searched for a bit. Finally, she read out, Fresh seafood to fit everyone's budgets. From the photo of the front, it looks like a country diner like at home. Carl, I know you're joking with us. Ben wouldn't take us for a meal somewhere like that. He earns over $2,000 a month. He would never take us to eat somewhere so cheap. Ben's face stiffened as he felt even more awkward. Tanya noticed that something was wrong with him. Ben, she whispered, wondering what was wrong. Then she said, Actually, this seafood bar looks pretty good. We both like fish. Let's go there. Brittany wasn't convinced. She said, Listen, Ben doesn't need all this money, and we came all this way to New York. I think you should let your brother treat us to a decent meal. And didn't you just say you wanted to take photos to post on Instagram? This seafood bar is just like the diners back home. Everyone would laugh at us if we posted photos of that place. We can't waste our time in New York eating somewhere like that. Tanya replied, Who cares what everyone thinks? Wherever Ben takes me to eat, I'll eat. Although she was also very puzzled and a bit disappointed, she wanted to stick up for her brother. Ben, who was standing between the girls, was in turmoil. He wanted to stand up and shout, Stop arguing, I'll take you guys to the best restaurant in New York to eat. But he knew he couldn't pay for it. Alex interrupted his thoughts. Ben, stop joking with her sister. He looked at the girls and said, Before we met you, Ben had already discussed it with us. And we all decided that we're going to treat you guys to dinner at Yellow Garden tonight. What do you think? If you're not happy with that, we can go somewhere else. Ben and Carl were both shocked. Yellow Garden was a famous restaurant in New York, and it was very expensive. For 5 of them to eat there, Ben would need at least $600. And he had a little over $200 left. And he still had to pay for a hotel room for the girls. He looked helplessly at Alex, thinking, Alex, you must be joking. How can I afford dinner at Yellow Garden? Brittany agreed immediately when she heard where they were going to eat. She said, Yellow Garden? That's a really famous restaurant. I've heard that it's really fancy. Let's go. Carl pulled Alex toward him and whispered anxiously, What are you doing to Ben? He's only got a little over $200 left to pay for dinner in their hotel. It will be terrible if he takes the girls to Yellow Garden and can't pay the bill. What do you want him to do? He'll be so embarrassed in front of his sister and her friend. I know, don't worry. Do you really think I would do anything to hurt Ben? Alex comforted Carl. To him, Yellow Garden was only a mediocre restaurant. He originally wanted to take everyone to DeLuca's or Chez Laurent as a treat, but he realized that these were too exclusive and places that Ben could never afford. He felt the best choice was Yellow Garden. It's fine, let's go, he reassured Ben as he patted his shoulder. Ben, are you going to treat us at Yellow Garden? Tanya asked. She was his sister, and she could tell something was worrying him. He pretended to be relaxed as he smiled and replied, Of course, Yellow Garden's really good. I'll take you guys and you can see what you think. Inside, he was panicking. How can I refuse now? I've got to pretend everything's all right. But I've only got $200 on me. What the hell am I going to do when we get there? The girls jumped into one cab and the boys into another. They all headed to the restaurant. Without the girls present, Ben could stop pretending. He could be honest with his friends. Alex, what are you trying to do to me? You know I don't have enough money, he said in a panic. This is my card and there's still $500 on it. It's yours, Carl said, handing a bank card to Ben. The money on it was for his living expenses, but his friend was in trouble, so he was happy for him to have it. No need. Both of you listen. I've told you I've got a plan. Ben won't be embarrassed in front of the girls. Alex smiled and continued, Ben, let everyone order whatever they want. When we settle the bill, we'll go together to pay, and we'll use my bank card. He took out his First Republic Bank black card, waved it in front of them quickly, and then put it into his pocket. He didn't want his friends to look too carefully at the card and recognize it. Everyone knew that to have an account there, you needed $1 million, and that $3 million was needed to open a VIP account. Ben and Carl looked at Alex in confusion. Carl asked, Alex, how much money have you got on your card? Where's the money from? You're usually struggling for money even more than us. Deep down, they didn't believe him. He rubbed his nose and said, I've got around $8,000 in the account. I was really lucky recently. I bought 10 lottery tickets and won $8,000. He still didn't want his friends to know his real identity. Even if he told them, they might not believe him. Hearing that Alex had $8,000, his friends were relieved. They teased him a little for not telling them about the lottery win. Soon, They arrived at Yellow Garden. It was a beautiful old building. There were a lot of luxury cars parked in front, and its clientele were from the upper echelons of New York society. Ben and Carl had never been to such a high-class establishment. When they saw a group of well-dressed people walk past them, they were bewildered for a moment. Luckily, Alex took control and led them into the restaurant. Once seated, under Alex's reassuring gaze, Ben mustered up his courage and ordered 10 different specialties and ordered 2 expensive bottles of red wine. According to the menu, he had already spent $600. Brittany was very happy when she looked at the dishes on the table. She looked at Tanya and said, "See, I knew that Ben was going to treat us to a good meal tonight. This place is way more luxurious than any restaurant at home." "Of course, he's my brother. Let's take some photos for Instagram. Our friends will be so jealous," Tanya said as she held up her cell phone to take a picture of the restaurant. Everyone relaxed, smiled at the photo. The meal went very well. They all enjoyed their food and chatted amicably. Happy laughs were heard from time to time. After the main course, Alex stood up and said to everyone, "You guys carry on. I need to go to the bathroom." He walked toward the restrooms. As he walked, Vivian and Monica popped into his mind. Sam had reported that the Flag sect were still looking for Dale Granger, and he was worried that they would go to Vivian's home. He was relieved that he had ordered Sam to send someone to collect Vivian and Monica and take them to stay in a safe place. They probably took them to either the Azalea guest house or to the Berkeley Hotel. While Alex was in the bathroom, a group of rowdy youths entered Yellow Garden. The leader was a young man with his hair shaved on both sides and a tattoo on his head. He was hugging a pretty girl. The young man was called Corey Davis, and his father was another one of Flag Sect's leaders. Because the Flag Sect had taken control of New York's underworld, Corey's status had risen along with it, and everyone wanted to befriend him. "Corey, thanks for treating us today. How many people are coming?" "I only called Henry. He said he was nearby and would be here soon. It's good if there's less people. You're right, of course. Right now everyone in New York wants to be seen with you. We feel very honored that you chose us." They spoke in very loud and brash voices and didn't care at all if they upset the other diners. None of the customers or waiters dared to say anything. Finally, the manager went up to them with a smile to take their orders. They had attracted the attention of the entire restaurant the moment they entered the door. When they saw this group of people, Ben and Carl were dismayed. "What are they doing here?" Ben complained. He recognized 2 of the young men as the 2 hooligans who had harassed Tanya at the airport. Ben put his head in his hands. Carl also lowered his head. He felt uneasy and didn't want the men to see them. There were 6 or 7 thugs in the group. The young man with the shaved head seemed to be their leader, and he looked formidable. Ben and Carl prayed that they would not recognize them as they passed. Then they heard, "Hang on, Corey. I think I saw 2 familiar faces." When they got closer and saw Ben, the 2 hoodlums recognized him. Then Ben heard a familiar voice saying, "Steve, Rich, are they the ones that beat you up?" He saw another youth walking over, and a chill went up his spine. Although Darren Rogers was a university student, he had no interest in studying at all. He often hung out outside of school, and after a chance encounter, he befriended Corey and became one of his followers. Under the influence of her mother, his girlfriend Donna had dumped him. Darren turned his gaze toward Ben. For a moment, the 2 of them locked eyes. It was the first time that Darren had ever looked directly at any of them. He said, "I know these guys. Corey, Steve, Rich, let me introduce them to you. They're in my class. They're nobodies, just a couple of losers. They're so poor they can hardly afford to eat. Once when my class went on a trip to Staten Island, we all decided to go out for dinner. These 2 punks and their buddy Alex couldn't even afford a meal. They sat outside on a bench eating fries. They didn't like it when I took a photo of them for..." laughed one of his companions. They're that poor? Asked another. The first said, That's not much better than the people on the street begging for food. Corey and his lackeys laughed loudly. Listening to Darren, Tanya and Brittany were shocked. Ben was doing very well in New York. Why did this man say he was couldn't afford to eat? Was Ben lying? Or was this boy making it up? But he's wearing designer clothes right now, and he's eating it here, Steve said. Then he pointed toward Tanya and Brittany and continued, And these two pretty girls are keeping him company. My guess is that he spent a month's worth of living expenses on the clothes he's wearing. Darren didn't believe that Ben had the money to buy decent clothes. I'm amazed he found the money to bring a date here. He must be planning to spend every cent he has tonight, then live on dirt next semester. His words caused another wave of laughter. Ladies, what are you doing with worthless Ben? One of his friends joked. Darren smiled at Tanya and Brittany and said, Maybe he tricked you with his romantic words. Do you actually believe he's wealthy, or could it all just be an act? Ben felt so ashamed to be insulted by Darren in front of his sister. To be called worthless. He wanted to beat him up, but there were too many of Darren's friends there, so he stayed quiet. He felt so ashamed that he clenched his fists and wanted to find a hole to hide in. Have you got anything to say? Aren't you two even going to stick up for yourselves? You worthless pieces of crap. Steve spat out and started walking toward them with Rich. Ben and Carl were both frightened when they saw them approaching. They didn't dare to move, but just sat on their chairs with their heads lowered. What are you talking about with these two pieces of... Rich said as he kicked Ben's and Carl's seats so they both fell to the ground. Stand up, Steve shouted, and Ben and Carl stood up. Rich, these clothes would look good on you. Steve pulled out a knife and grabbed Ben's shirt, ready to cut it open. Ben tried to back off. These were the most expensive and best clothes he had ever worn in his life. He cherished them greatly and didn't want to lose them. If you keep moving, I'll cut you to pieces, Steve roared. With a single slash, a big hole appeared in Ben's shirt. Ben looked at his cut shirt and felt his heart ache. He was hoping he could wear it if he attended any important events over the next few years. Now he could never wear it again. Ha! Look at how weak that guy is. He's not even standing up for himself. What a... Darren laughed. Steve kicked Ben's chest. He fell back, knocked over their table, and fell onto the ground. At the same time, Carl was kicked to the ground by Rich. Brittany, like most of the other girls at the restaurant, was screaming loudly. Tanya, on the other hand, rushed to help Ben up. These two girls are pretty good looking. Corey let go of his girlfriend and looked at Tanya. Tanya backed off in fright. She could sense how dangerous this group of men was. Come to me, pretty girl. Corey wrapped his arms around Tanya's neck and was about to pull her into his embrace. She screamed, Ah! At that moment, they all heard a shout. Don't touch her. At the same moment, Corey let out a blood-curdling howl. Ah! Something had slammed into the back of his head. He bent down with his head in his hands and took a few steps back. He finally let go of Tanya. Are you okay? Ben asked with concern as he hugged Tanya. When he had seen Corey grabbing her, he hadn't hesitated. He had rushed over and thumped him over the head. He could tolerate being humiliated himself, but there was no way he could let someone threaten his sister. No, not even the president would be allowed to touch his sister. Corey, are you all right? Corey rubbed his head and straightened his back. He grew angry. He had grown up leading a pampered life. When he had bullied others, he had never been beat. Get this guy. I want to see how you're going to protect her now. He pointed at Ben in anger, and the lackeys accepted his order. How dare you hit Corey? One of them shouted. If you're looking to... Why didn't you say so earlier? Said another. I'll beat you to... Said yet another. A few people yelled as they rushed toward Ben. Although Ben was terrified, he was even more afraid that his sister Tanya would be bullied. Ben stood in front of her to protect her. He decided that even if he was going to be, he would not let them hurt his sister. He protected Tanya with a determined look on his face. "Let go of her," Steve shouted. The lackeys near Tanya dodged away. Ben was dazed, but he still stood his ground to protect Tanya. "Ben!" Tanya was frightened. She covered her ears, closed her eyes, and shielded her body with her arms. When she opened her eyes, Ben was still standing in front of her. Tanya was scared and angry, but deeply touched that her brother protected her. She held Ben and cried helplessly. "Brother, are you okay? Are you okay?" "So your brother and sister." After Corey finished yelling, a few people rushed toward Brittany. Carl protected Brittany with as much courage as Ben had shown protecting Tanya, and placed her behind him to keep her safe. Carl decided that he wasn't going to let this guy make him look bad. Ben and Carl bitterly endured the lackey's relentless fighting style, but as they were outnumbered, they probably could only last another 5 minutes. Tanya wanted to help her brother, but he prevented her from moving. Brittany, shielded by Carl, grabbed his shirt in fear. The people inside the restaurant felt it was out of their control, or worse, that they would get pulled into it. They didn't dare to get involved, so many of the guests quickly rushed out the door. Corey started to feel better. "Hey, what are you doing? Stop!" Alex cried out. Alex rushed out of the bathroom. He was shocked and angry when he saw what was happening to Ben and Carl. He had left the table to call Sam Woodsworth to ask him to move Vivian Carter and her daughter to a safe place. He had only vaguely heard the sounds of a dispute outside, but he had not expected it to involve Ben's group. He saw 6 people surrounding Ben and Carl. Without a word, he rushed to help them. "Corey, Steve shook his head at Corey before his eyes closed. When the other thugs saw how ruthless Alex was, they were all shocked. They took a step away from him and watched carefully. "How are you doing?" Alex looked at Ben and Carl. Alex's heart ached as he looked at them. Tanya and Brittany's hearts moved when they saw Alex save them. Looking at his serious expression, without a trace of fear, they felt that this man had a lot of courage. "Fortunately," Ben said. He was unable to open his eyes as he sat helplessly on the ground with Carl. "Are you all right?" Tanya's attention shifted to her brother. She hugged Ben and cried. Brittany also squatted beside Carl to take care of him. "I'm okay, so long as you're okay," said Ben as he smiled. Alex thought of calling for an ambulance, but he paused. "What's going on? Corey, what's wrong?" Just when the fight had calmed down, another person walked into the restaurant. It was Henry Moore. Slayer followed closely behind him. He was still wearing his strange clothes and a white mask. When he saw Alex in the room, his gaze stopped on him for a few seconds. Henry walked up to Corey and asked with concern. Seeing Corey look in Alex's direction and toward the rest of his group, Henry looked at Alex and revealed a cold smile. "It's you again, damn it," he exclaimed. "Henry, don't act blindly without thinking first. I've already told a few of my guys to come over and kill this arrogant guy," Corey said as he looked at Alex warily. He had only stopped by the Yellow Garden by chance. "Corey, how could these people dare to offend you? As your friend, how can I stand it?" Henry looked like he could not wait to get revenge for Corey, which would help build their relationship. He turned to Corey and said, "Besides, you might not know this, but this guy's hit me before. This time, whether it's for you or for me, I'm not standing by to watch him act so arrogantly in front of you. All right, you should know that his skills aren't bad. Not only that, but he can also be pretty ruthless. So I'm afraid you might not be able to beat him up." Corey was rather fond of Henry and felt quite close to him. "Corey, you worry too much. So what if I can't personally beat him? For people like us, we don't have to dirty our own hands to deal with this kind of..." Harry said with disdain. He then looked over at Slayer. Just let him deal with him. Over the last few days, Slayer had almost recovered from his injuries. Slayer had said that he'd had an absent-minded moment that had given Alex an opening. Alex was not his match at all. Henry also felt that it was by chance that Alex had Slayer. Him? Corey looked at Slayer in confusion. This little guy is so short and thin, Corey thought. Henry, you saw it. He's much stronger than you and this strange little guy. Don't let him get killed. We'd better wait for Corey's helpers, Darren said, voicing his opinion. Both Darren and Henry worked to flatter Corey's rich ego. Naturally, Darren didn't want Henry to do well in front of Corey and gain his favor, especially since Darren and Henry didn't like each other to begin with. Oh, Darren, don't worry so much, Henry said as he looked at him with disdain. You... Darren angrily rushed toward Henry. Ah! Darren cried out in pain, while Slayer calmly took his place beside Henry. Not bad. At least I know how to bad guys for you, Slayer said. Good. See? My man's really strong. Go after those three and don't hold back. I'll take responsibility, Henry said while he pointed viciously at Alex. All right, I'll do what you say. Henry felt that if he could get Alex and his friends this time, not only would he avenge himself, but he would also earn Corey's goodwill. Henry put his hand on Slayer's shoulder and pointed at Alex. Slayer, when you're done, I'll give you another $500 each month, so you can buy more clothes and look handsome. Now hurry up and do it. Henry handed Slayer and pushed him away. Slayer stared at Alex nervously, but he did not make a move. Alex just stood in front of Ben and his friends, silently looking at the little masked man. Slayer, what's wrong with you? Henry shouted. Slayer remained motionless. Although no one could see his face, his eyes were wildly jumping from side to side. What's going on? Why isn't he listening to you? Corey asked Henry with a frown. Henry smiled awkwardly, locked behind the little masked man. He shouted, Don't you understand what I'm saying to you? Go and get him now. Slayer just stood there, as if he couldn't hear Henry's orders. He remembered that Alex was his first and only friend. How could he kill his friend? What are you doing? Why don't you do as I say? I feed you and dress you. I also give you $2,000 every month. Why aren't you listening to me? Henry had never treated Slayer as a human being. Now Slayer's ears had turned deaf to his orders, causing Henry to look bad in front of everyone. Slayer didn't resist, and only moved slightly. Henry was his benefactor, so he felt Henry had the right to treat him this way. Alex stood in front of Slayer and shouted, Danny, stand up and hit him. You're a man. No one can treat you like this. Stand up. Seeing Slayer being stepped on made Alex feel sadness in his heart. He knew that he needed Slayer to find himself to truly get rid of Henry's control. Hearing Alex shout, Slayer opened his eyes. He looked at Alex, and once again, he felt the care and concern of his friend. But he is my master. He has saved me. I can't hit him, Slayer mumbled in confusion. No, Danny. He did save you, but you've already paid your debt to him. No one is your master. You should get up and fight back. Danny, get up, Alex shouted. He hoped that Slayer could understand what he was trying to say to him. No one is my master, Slayer repeated Alex's words. He felt a little confused. You know this guy? You betrayed me. I gave you food and drink every day. Now that I need you to fight my enemy, you're useless. Master, no, I didn't betray you. Ever since he had started following Henry, he had never thought that he would betray him. Danny, get up, Alex shouted worriedly. You don't need to wear this mask. Henry did not know that the reason Slayer had followed him so closely was because of the mask that he had given him. The mask hid Slayer's deformed face, so he was no longer made fun of by others. The mask helped him feel like an ordinary person. If Henry broke the mask, there might be a result that he would never have imagined. Do you still remember what I told you when I saved you that day? That you'd have to listen to me from then on. Slayer's hand trembled while he held the... He looked at Alex, and his eyes twitched. He was extremely conflicted. Should he choose the mask or his friend? Danny, are you still not able to see what kind of person Henry is? Don't let him control you anymore. If this continues, you won't feel happiness again. Alex tried to persuade Slayer, hoping that he would quickly figure it out. Slayer could not hear anything. An intense battle raged in his mind. Everyone will laugh at you. No one will want to know you. No company will recruit you. You'll be abandoned by the entire society. No one will pity you, Henry shouted from behind him. Slayer closed his eyes and thought of the times when he was insulted, mocked, ridiculed, and criticized. We won't play with you, you're... The group of kids got on their scooters and left, leaving little Slayer staring dumbly after them. Stop looking. If you keep looking at him, you'll get nightmares. A mother covered her child's eyes and quickly left. Just go. We won't take you even if we do hire someone. You're affecting our business. Get lost. Don't come back here again. An old man pushed Slayer into a pool of water in front of the car wash shop. The laughter from countless cruel people rang in his ears. They were laughing so arrogantly. Slayer closed his eyes. He felt very uncomfortable. It felt like his eardrums were about to burst, and his brain was about to explode. His head and his heart hurt from the unspeakable ordeals he'd had to endure throughout his life. Slayer let out a crazed roar and opened his eyes, and rushed toward Alex to... Get him. It won't be a problem to... Corey and I will save you. Seeing that Slayer was about Alex, Henry became excited, and his attitude became gentler as he persuaded him. Not only Henry, but Corey and his group were also excited. Their eyes were full of expectation. But Slayer stopped and looked at Alex's face. His red eyes were still filled with rage. However, something seemed to be rolling around in his messy mind. Alex looked at the little man. If Slayer slashed at him, he only had about an 80% chance of dodging him. If he couldn't dodge him, it would likely end in his death. But Alex was still willing to take the risk. If he didn't trust him, how could they talk about being friends? He believed that Slayer could make the right choice. This was also a test that Slayer had to pass to find the strength to remove Henry from his life. At that moment, Ben rushed toward Slayer. Ben was burning with anxiety. He took the opportunity to try to knock Slayer aside and give Alex a chance to escape. Ben, don't move, are you okay? Tanya ran over to Ben and held his head as she sobbed. Slayer looked at Ben, puzzled by his actions. Weirdo! Leave Alex alone! Ben shouted excitedly at Slayer. Let him go! I'll fight you 1-for-1! Carl also roared. If it were not for Brittany holding him, he would have also rushed over to save Alex. Friend, Slayer muttered. He recalled that day when he was together with Alex. Slayer, what's your real name? Alex had asked. My name is Daniel Wiseman. That's a good name. You're my friend now. Come and hang out with me someday, Alex had told him. Friend? Yes, friends, Alex had said gently. Later, Alex had asked, if Henry asks you to in the future, will you tell me? No, I won't tell my friends. I won't let my friends be bullied, Danny had replied. Slayer's heart was filled with regret as his own words appeared in his mind. What on earth was he doing now? Rah! Slayer roared again. Henry looked at Slayer in disbelief. Even in his dreams, he never would have thought that Slayer would stab him. In his eyes, Slayer was just an obedient. How could he dare him? Henry groaned again. He wanted to get away from Slayer, but he soon collapsed onto the floor. Everyone quickly dodged to the side in fright. Corey, get up and... I'm going to need a doctor. The hospital. Henry didn't finish his sentence. His body became motionless.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.